Hello and a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm Penny from Wales in the UK. So in today's video I'm going to make some page tabs. So there's a picture of how it looks when it's finished. And I'm also going to create a page in the art book. I'm trying to create a story on each page, which is turning out to be quite a challenge for me because normally I work I just use my intuition to guide me. So to start with, I'm using book pages and I'm going to trim off all the edges because I only want to use the text. And I've also got there the same fabric that I used for the spine of the book. So I'm just going to use my craft knife to cut off these edges. The blank space at the top of the pages is proving very useful for quotes and stamping words and other things that I can't think of at the moment, but I keep all of those. I do keep my book pages on my art table next to me so that I can make all my ephemera from the pages, like tags and tucks, pockets and belly bands and envelopes, or any ephemera that I might want to make for this book. So I've just got the text left now, so I'm going to glue the fabric onto the pages, making sure that I leave some text around the edges so that it's peeping out from the fabric when I glue them onto the page. I'm using Elmer's glue, which is really good for paper and card and fabric, and it's not an expensive glue, so that's a bonus. I'm just using a little bit of glue in the middle of the fabric because I don't really need to glue the whole thing down. Just cutting a few more strips here because I need 9 tabs altogether. And then when I've done this, I'm going to fray the edges so that I've got a bit of a fringe on all 4 sides of the fabric, because that adds a little bit more interest. This is really easy to fray because the strands come off without any problem. I think this is, I think it's upholstery fabric. So now I thought that the tabs needed a bit, something extra because they were looking a little bit plain. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to dye the piece of gauze that I've got there with the Arteza olive green paint that I used on the cover. And I just add some water and mix it up. And then I'll dip the gauze into that paint. I'm also spraying some water onto the gauze here because there won't be enough water in that little plastic lid with the paint. So I just kind of squish it around in the paint. Very simple method of dyeing some fabric. Takes very little time. And I'm just going to roll up the gauze here to make sure that the whole piece is covered in colour. And I stretch it out so that I can see that it's all covered. So that's fine, that's done a good and even job there. So I've dried it with my hairdryer. That took about a minute or so, very fast, because obviously gauze is very thin. And then I glue the fabric and the paper onto the gauze. I do have a bit of acetate underneath the gauze there, because because it's so thin that the glue will just seep out everywhere. So with the acetate underneath, it won't stick to the surface. I could have made these pieces a little bit smaller, I think, but they're fine. So I do 9 of these, and then I do actually use my hairdryer again to dry the glue, and any of the gauze that I've got left goes into my little pot so that I can use that in future projects. So now these are all ready to be glued into the book, which is the next thing I do. The first time I did this, I'd glued on 3 or 4 of the tabs, and when I closed the book, it was sticking out for miles, and it all looked really weird. So luckily the glue hadn't dried, so I was able to take them off. And then I adjusted them and moved them, in down a bit so that I had about half an inch sticking out then, which was perfect. Thank goodness. So yeah, there I am taking one off and adjusting it, moving it further down the page. And then I check to see if the right amount of tab is showing, and it is now. And I have one more left to do, and then I'm done. I'm finished with the tabs. It's very easy to do, and I think it's very effective. I like to have things sticking out of the book because it gives it interest and it looks nice. So now I'm ready to start my page. Here I'm using some sewing pattern tissue paper that I had splashed and splattered with different colours, and I really liked the way they turned out. I think I'm coming to the end of these now, so I need to make some more. So I'm just using a glue stick here. It's just because it's a drier glue, and I didn't want any lumps and bumps underneath the tissue paper. I mean, I don't mind, I quite actually like the creases that tissue paper makes, but I didn't want all the glue kind of showing through. So it was better to use the glue stick for this purpose. I'm really liking how the colours look on the page. But things don't go super well as I go on. I do struggle with this page quite a lot, and I lose all these colours, but you will see that as we move on. I had spent quite a lot of time, because with my art books, I like to try and create a story. I had spent quite a lot of time going through all my jelly prints and my scraps of paper and my books. I wanted to find something that I could make a collage with. So those 3 pages that you see there at the top of the screen, they're the 3 paintings that I pulled out of my art book, and I decided to use this painting, which is by Sir Henry Raeburn. He was a painter, an artist from Edinburgh in Scotland, and this painting is the Reverend Robert Walker skating on a loch in Scotland. I really like this. I love his stance, and he's got a wonderful expression on his face. So I'm creating the story. It's only a very simple, short story, just creating a story around him, kind of leaving home and skating to church. So now I want to add some texture to the page. So I'm adding this is white acrylic paint, and this is some baking powder that I'm using to mix with the paint to create a texture. It works quite well, actually. I think some people use talcum powder, but that's, there's a lot of dust in talcum powder, so I use the baking powder, which seems to work quite well. So this is a Tim Holtz stencil that I'm using, and the pattern reminds me of church windows, so that's why I'm using this. I don't think really it was necessary for me to stencil on the left of the page here. I think it would have been enough just to stencil at the top of the page, because when I put my skater on, he's skating to the right, heading to the church, so I didn't really need him to have the church behind him as well as in front of him. So now I'm using my Dilutions sprays. This is the Lemon Zest, and I also use the Peony blush. I was hoping for a kind of orangey glow, but it ended up being a bit more peachy than I wanted, so I didn't really like how that turned out. It looks quite pink on the screen, but in real life it was definitely peachy. So now I'm starting my collage. So these are, I think all the pieces of collage that I use are some baking paper that the painted papers and scraps of paper left from cleaning my brushes or cleaning my brayer after jelly printing. And these pieces here had some white splattering on, so they looked a bit snowy. I'm trying to create a small landscape for my skater to sit on or stand on or skate on. So I'm trying to create a landscape of a darkish sky and some rocks and snow and ice. I don't find collage, trying to create a scene with collage very easy to do. Definitely something I need to practice. There is a skill to it. But practice and experiment is, all you can do to improve. So now I'm gluing on the Reverend. I'm actually using Liquid X here because the picture, the painting, or the paper that I cut the Reverend from was quite thin, and it was also quite shiny. So the Liquid X is a matte gel medium, so it takes away the shine. So the background, although I love the colours, they're not very wintry. This is a spiral. I had a painted piece of paper that I'd painted some spirals on, so I cut them all out and used one here. And now I'm using gesso. I hadn't really intended, I had intended to just gesso around the collage pieces to blend them into the background, and I also wanted to try to get rid of the colour on the stencils, but I did end up gessoing the whole thing, which was a bit of a shame because I did like the colours, but as I was creating a winter scene, that wasn't really a very good choice, so it was a bit of a waste of papers, really. But live and learn. So now I'm doing some stamping. This is a candle. I think this candle came from, Creative something. can't remember now what they're called. And then I've got a script stamp here, and I also had stamped some winter trees, and I think there was a leaf as well. I'm adding a pocket here, or a side tuck. This is a piece of scrap that kind of reminded me of some rocks and snow and ice. And then I had stamped some words on here. What it said was, winter colour is in the imagination. But it's not really appropriate for this page, because I do use colour, and for some reason, don't ask me why, I'm now putting the pink and the yellow back onto the page. I think what I was trying to do was to balance the page, because on the left hand side here I've put a book page and jelly print, part of a jelly print here that I'm using as two text spots, and so that I think that's why I was using the yellow and the pink to kind of balance it out. But I don't like the yellow and the pink, and it didn't really work. So this actually took me quite a long time. I kept going back to it and adding to it, and all the time. So now I'm using my watercolour paints again, and I'm going over the page with dark greens and dark blues. I think I'm also thinking that I wanted the church to kind of light up with a yellowy and pinky gold, but it glow rather, but it didn't work. But things don't always work. They don't always go to plan. And as I said, creating a story in my art book, I do find quite a challenge. And I haven't done this for quite a while, because I've been concentrating more on my art journals and creating intuitively, which I think is probably what I enjoy the most. But I wanted to give this a go. So as I say, I just keep going back and adding more and more blues and dark greens to the page. I think I do eventually go over the pink and the yellow as well. So I did do quite a bit of it off camera. So I've added the text spots. On the top right here, I've used the same jelly print to make a little text spot that I've just fixed on the page with a square clip there, paper clip. And then these bits here down on the right hand in the pocket here, the side pocket or tuck, I've made a little tag out of the same card, and then I've added some pieces about the artist and about the painting. And this drawing, this black and white drawing here, is actually of the Frost Fair from 1814. This is in London, not in Scotland, but apparently I think there were about 6 Frost Fairs during the 17 and 1800s, when the River Thames just completely iced over. And apparently they did lead an elephant onto the ice in 1814, so I didn't like that idea. Poor old elephant on the ice. But there we are, they had some funny ideas in those days. So that's my page finished. Not a complete success in my eyes, but it's okay. I'm quite happy with it. Just maybe learn some lessons to take forward onto the next page. So that's it then, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you for all the likes and the lovely comments that you leave. I really do appreciate the comments, and also I appreciate the shares too. Thank you so much. One thing I will say is that I am going to try and go live, because I think that would be a nice way of interacting with you all. But I will decide when. It's a bit tricky with the time because of the time differences from Australia to the UK to America. So I'm not quite sure, but I will put it on my community page and let you know when I'm going to do that. So thank you again, everybody, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Lots of love. Bye bye.